I'm doing the show because ETV asked me to, so I agreed, despite the fact that the whole democratic machine today really turns me off as far as solving things go. But I'm willing to be convinced. I have an open mind, and I want to find out. There are various ways in which an individual can affect governmental policy. There is the formal method, and there are alternate methods with varying tactics. Things like sit-ins, protests, active demonstration. I think that young people have an awful lot of good things to say. If the young people have any political interests whatever, like if they're political animals, we say, then I don't think that they would really look to the political parties. I'm saying that there may be a great, a huge mass of things that we'd like to see change. A huge mass of inconsistencies in the system that we would like to see righted. I really want to know what the political parties can offer me as an individual who wants to take a part in what they're doing. Hopefully, they would be able to answer me. Hi, I'm Liss Jeffrey.
Come on in. Have a seat.
Hi, I guess you know why I'm here.
Yes, I understand that you might be interested in joining with us.
Yes. Well, how old do I have to be to join your party?
14. That's the age limit set by the youth section of the party. Actually, the party doesn't have a limit, but the youth is a bit choosy. They don't want too young people, apparently, in there. But 14 will be fine. I think you're a bit more than 14, so you'll be all right.
And if I become a member of your party, do you say that it's divided? Is it divided into two sections?
In this party, the youth have their own section, but each member of the youth section is a member of the party automatically. In other words, they've got a special category of their own. It's as if you had a group of members within the party pulling off into a club for their own purposes, you know.
If I joined, what would I do? What could I do to affect the formulation of policy in the party?
I think, first of all, we have to get a basic principle across. The amount of influence that you can have within a political party, within our political party, is entirely dependent upon the amount of work, the amount of effort that you want to put into it.
What does this effort constitute?
Well, for example, going to meetings of your, particular section, working up a resolution, getting other people convinced that you've got a good idea, and the normal job of persuasion that you have to do anywhere to get people to side with you.
Not just poster making. No.
Not just poster making, by all means, not just poster making. We find, as a matter of fact, that the youth are, I'd like to say, almost essential in the policy development of the party.
Why?
Why? Because they're the ones who come, as it were, from the outside, you see. Most of the rest of the people in the party have another concern as well, and that concern is maintaining and preserving the party. This is a natural function I don't know whose law of political progress this is, so let's say it's ours, but for every step up that you take in an organization, you take a step to the right, in a sense. The right being that kind of attitude which causes you to worry about the maintenance of the institution, of the organization.
If I thought that it would make any impression whatever upon the political parties as they are now, I would want to have an active voice in them. What actual link is there? What machinery is there for translating the wishes of the members of the party into actual policy?
There is no direction as far as priorities to a government is concerned. The government sets its own priorities, but the feeling of the party dictates what the priorities will be.
Well, how can this be? It seems to me that the cabinet runs sets most of the actual policies without consultation with any of the members. Perhaps there's a little interchange, but it doesn't seem to have any actual effect.
Well, I quite agree that this has happened over the last 20 years. The party, the government in power, has been setting the policy and passing it back on down. However, if you look at the makeup of the government has come up through the people who are interested in politics.
Well, except that in democracy, everyone is supposed to have a certain interest. It is supposed to come from the bottom, so to speak, with the people voting, the people suggesting.
That's right. That's why everybody should belong to a party in order to dictate the policy of that party.
I was working for Indian welfare, talking to young Indian girls about what life was like, which was a terribly difficult thing. Telling them what life in a city was like was practically impossible. The Indians are so cut off from the mainstream of Canadian life, and yet they're expected to react to situations, to react to our gain-motivated society the same way anyone else would. All right, integration, but I don't think that we should work for assimilation, which is destroying the Indians' culture. The idea of a just society appeals so strongly to us, to the young. We want a just society so badly. Now, why should I join a party as opposed to the other methods that have been worked upon, you know, flexible tactics? For example, protest, demonstration, things like that, other tactics. Now, why should you join a party as a question of effectiveness?
Well, for the simple reason that we have in existence certain institutions without which I don't believe you can run a country. To deny any kind of institution is to institute anarchy, really.
Because I don't see that there's any alternative at all between the liberals and the conservatives. I find that they're so close, their policies are practically the same, that there's no real choice in voting for the Canadian voter.
Well, I think there's a considerable choice, but to some degree there isn't a great distinction. There's not a great philosophical distinction as you might find, say, between the more socialist-oriented parties as opposed to more right-wing parties. Both the liberals and the conservatives tend to be moderate, middle-of-the-road parties. And at any given time, the distinctions change, and usually the most important element in the distinction is the people leading the party and the various policies the party adopts at any one time. But there's no question that they're both moderate, more or less middle-of-the-road parties.
Well, in that case, how can, say, right now, the conservatives offer an effective opposition to the liberals?
Well, that's very simple. You see, you have to define opposition in terms of extremes, then it can't. But I don't see, for example, that it necessarily follows that if you have a left-wing government, the only alternative to that is a right-wing government, or vice versa.
What's the liberal attitude or policy as far as lowering the voting age goes?
I don't know.
Well, what is your personal opinion, then?
I feel that if we continue to see the interest in politics that has been shown by the younger people, then I'm definitely in favor of it. I hadn't been in favor of it until this previous election, in which I saw the enthusiasm of the young people.
Do you think the voting age should be lowered?
Of course.
To what?
18 at least.
The voting age is a good point. It should be 18. That's my own personal point of view. And so should everything else.
Do you think that in the party system itself, real dissenters, like people who, in wanting to get to the root of the problem, have to want to change a whole section of the system itself? Now, do you think that this type of person can find a place in the political party?
Oh, very definitely. But I think that there, too, this kind of desire to change, particularly on the part of young people, hasn't really manifested itself in any way until very recently. And as a result, political parties again until recently, kind of adopted the point of view that they played great lip service to youth, and we're glad to have them around, but don't really say anything till you're 35 years of age, and then we'll start listening to you.
It's so easy to be in a radical position when you're not actually within the structure.
But we are within the structure. You see, even though we are not elected to government here in Ontario, we are nevertheless within the structure of government. We have members elected to the legislature. These members, in turn, are responsible to the people who have elected them in their constituencies. If they go too far out, if they become too irrelevant, they won't be elected. Then they lose their position in the structure. So a political party has influence, even though it is not the government.
I took a course in urban renewal. I know a little bit about it. I think that in urban renewal, the problem is that there isn't a plan as to how the cities, some plan how the cities can grow. Like they just sprawl. They just grow any way that they can. It's such an amorphous shape, just moving. And it's terrible because it creates more problems than it solves. I've had some experience down in the Treffin Court area, which, the people down there, the whole cycle that comes into housing, the poverty cycle, the kids getting caught up in this kind of thing, not being able to break through. What about the ordinary citizens, like the people who don't participate in the parties as such? What about as a means to more like a real participatory democracy, something like a plebiscite? Do you think that there's a need for things like this to really go back to the people, the basic level of democracy?
I think there you've put your finger on a really serious problem, particularly in urban areas nowadays. We've lost the old rural concept where the farmer knew exactly what his MP was doing, and this isn't the case in the cities now. Half the people don't know who their MP is. They don't know how to get a hold of him or how to contact him. And there is a big breaking down here. But I think that the way to handle this is by having our parties involve themselves in community action programs, opening an office in the riding, concerning themselves with people's problems and keeping in touch with their problems that way. My only concern about your suggestion of a plebiscite is that too often plebiscites record an opinion based on a lack of knowledge. For example, you could have a plebiscite today on perhaps a language question or the status of Quebec here in Ontario. And if you did it in most ridings, you'd just get an automatic reaction to what was going on. In most cases, not well informed. If you're going to use plebiscites to any great degree, you have to have a great deal of political education.
Democracy is being involved in making decisions, okay? Further than that, it's being involved in making real decisions.
Democracy is people making decisions.
Not dogs or cats, for heaven's sake. You're using a form of cat. All you are. Of course, I mean people making decisions.
No, but the people actually being the base of the power.
All right.
The people holding the power in their hands.
All right. Okay. People making decisions. But making real decisions, right?
As far as people being represented. Now, how can you impress me that you have something to offer me in this respect?
Well, first of all, I am not going to do anything of the kind. So you might as well relax. I'm not going to impress you. I mean, a political party is a voluntary organization of people who want to see something happen at their local level or at their provincial level or at the federal level. We don't go out around impressing people, either in the modern sense of the term or in the old Navy sense of the term, where we clobber them and bring them in. We're not out, we're not here to, as it were, suck people in. I didn't join the party because, somebody came along and impressed me. I joined because I was seeking a formal, that's the correct word, a formal political expression for my outlook.
If I have a concern with a specific grievance, and I'm looking for the most effective way of getting something done about this grievance, or this problem, why should I join a political party? Do you think that this can help in this? Can I do anything?
You join with, or you start the specific interest group that is working on that specific grievance. We have all kinds of people who participate in the political party and who participate in a specific interest group. I have all kinds of examples that I can give you of people who are involved in direct action who also use the political party. Again, another example, this spring, a girl who's been very active in the party, her husband has been a candidate, mounted a very effective rent strike in East Toronto here, right? Now, one of the things that she had to do, she was just forced to do it before, really confronting the landlord, was to find accommodation for the 240 tenants in that apartment building in case he locked them out. What did she do? She rang me up, said, John, a 30-second conversation, I need accommodation for 240 people. I said, fine, all right, put the phone down. I, in turn, because we have an organization of like-minded people, phoned up two persons, one in East Toronto and West Toronto along the Bloor Street subway line, and said, without great explanation to them, said, this is what we're doing in East Toronto. This is what one of our people is doing. They need accommodation. Within 8 hours, because these people had access to other people, people of like minds, they had found billets for these people, and the girl was able to go ahead and proceed with the confrontation of the landlord, all right? If she had been an individual, just by herself, tooting her own horn, the landlord would have said, okay, fine, we're locking you out. And she said, gee, what would we do next? Okay? Now, there's a value in joining with other people who share your basic attitude.
Well, there's a question of power, too.
And that's what power is about. Don't be ashamed of power. If you really want to do something, you've got to have power. And the only way that people who want to change society fundamentally can have power is by joining together. That's all. There's no other way. And that's what a political party is.
I've really learned a lot through talking to the politicians. And I sincerely believe that they want to listen to young people. But as far as I can see, they're caught in a system which doesn't want to listen. Therefore, though my basic opinions haven't changed, I've gotten a lot more hopeful about the role of young people in the political parties today.